Ve'ilu kervonu lifnei har Sinai, v'lo nosan lonu es haTorah, dayenu. Had he drawn us close to Har Sinai, even if he wouldn't give us the Torah, it would be enough. And the question is, what would be enough about it? I mean, coming to Har Sinai, why is this one of the things mentioned as a toivoch fula umechupeles? So the Avud Raham in his Pirush on Haggadah Shel Pesach says that based on the Gemara in Shabbos that says that Shas the Chet Eitz Hadas Yordo Zuham Olam, the world became defiled, and Yisrael She'omdu al Har Sinai Posko Zuham Oson, that when Yidden stood at Har Sinai, that Zuhama was removed. Therefore, we celebrate the standing close to Har Sinai because that accomplished the removing of the Zuhama. But we need to understand what that means. I mean, why was just being at Har Sinai something so meaningful and significant that it accomplished removing the Zuhama? So it would be a token. I want to suggest the Rambam in Hilchos Isurei Bia in the beginning of Perek Yudalet says, "Keitzat mekablin geirei hatzedek." How do we receive a ger? Yeah, I'm just. How do we receive a ger? So the Rambam says, "In Moedian oisoi miktzas mitzvos kalois u miktzas mitzvos chamuros." We mentioned to him some of the easy mitzvahs, some of the hard mitzvahs, or some of the mitzvahs that are kal, some of the mitzvahs that are chamur. The ein ma'arichin b'dovar zeh. We keep it short. We don't elaborate. We don't elaborate as far as what the mitzvahs are. Earlier in the beginning of Perek Yud Gimel, the Rambam says, "B'shloisho dvarim nichnesu Yisrael lebris." V'chulei v'chein l'doros, which is based on the Gemara in Yavamis that we learn the halachas of Geirus from Matan Torah, that just like Nichnesu Yisrael lebris by Matan Torah, b'mila, tvila, v'hartzoas domim, so also every ger needs that. So I want to suggest that that we teach the ger haboli his gayer, mitzvah, miktzas mitzvos kalois, umiktzas mitzvos chamuros, is also based on Matan Torah. Because it says in the end of Parshas Yisroi, in the end of Parshas Mishpatim actually, Vayikach es Sefer HaBris, Vayikro be'oznei ha'om, Vayoimru kol asher dibra Hashem nasa v'nishma. What was the Sefer HaBris that was read to Klal Yisrael, and they responded, Kol asher dibra Hashem nasa v'nishma? So Rashi, the Sefer HaBris is mi bereishis va'ad Matan Torah u'mitzvahs shenitztavu b'moro. The Rashbam says, Nase v'nishma, Nase mashe diber, we will carry out, we will do what he already told us, meaning the mitzvahs that he gave us in Moro. V'gam nishma mashe yitzavenu mikanu lahaba v'nekayim. We will also listen to what he will tell us, and we will be mekayim. So it also says in the Cheskuni, the Nasa is on what it says in the Sefer HaBris, and Ishma is one on what he will tell us. So we see that in the Seder of Matan Torah, we were first told the mitzvahs, miktzas mitzvahs kalis, miktzas mitzvahs chamuros. We were first told some mitzvahs. Those are the mitzvahs that we were given in Mora, miktzas mitzvahs kalos, miktzas mitzvahs chamuros. And that Kabbalah of the miktzas mitzvahs kalos, miktzas mitzvahs chamuros was actually how we were nichnas la bris. So that could be the source of this halacha in the Rambam. Now, in the sugya of Matan Torah Masechta Shabbos, the Gemara says, Amar Rebbe Elazar, B'shoshe Ikdimu Yisrael Nasa L'Nishma. When they said first, Nasa, we will do, and then they said, Nishma, we will hear, we will listen. Yotzes Abaskoil v'Amra mi Gila Rozel Lebonai. Abaskoil came forth and said, who revealed to my children this secret? Shemalache Ashores Mishtamshim Boy. It's a roz that the angels use. Then the Gemara goes on, Ahut Tzedoiki, the Chazye LeRove, the Koma'ayim B'Shmaitase, there was a Tzedoiki that saw Rava learning the Yosva, it's Ba'ose Didei Tusei Kara, his finger was under his knee, and the Komayitzbu, he was pressing so hard, the Komavon it's Ba'ose Domo. It was, blood was coming out of his finger because he was pressing so hard on his finger. Amalei, the Tzedoiki said to Rava, I'm a pzize. You are an impetuous people. The Kadmisu Pumaichu Lu'udnaichu. You put your mouth before your ears. I mean, you say before you listen. Akati bepachzu saichu kaimisu. You're still suffering from this condition, of psizus, of hastiness, of impulsiveness. In other words, he's saying that the fact that your finger is caught under your foot, under your leg when you're learning, is part of this psizus syndrome. Bereisha, iboya lechu lemishma. First, you should have heard, imatzisu kablisu v'loi kablisu. If you do want to accept, if you don't want to accept, if what's being offered is something that you want to accept, and this thing that you were makdim nasa l'nishma is a pzizus. So Rava responded and he said, Anan de saginon b'shlei museh, ksiv bon, tumas yeshorim tanchem. He's quoting a pasuk in Mishlei that we that are upright people and we trusted the Rebbeinu Shalom. So it says about us that Tumas Yeshorim Tanchem, that the innocence, the integrity of the just will guide them. Tumas Yeshorim Tanchem. Hanoch Inchi the Sagon Ba'aliluse. Those people that are always fault finding and looking for alilois. That's the sefer of that pasuk in Mishlei, that the corruption of the faithless will destroy them. So you see that from this Gemara that the Hakdama of Nasa to Nishma is considered a gewaltige Sache, a tremendous thing that Klal Yisrael did. It's a soid shemalachi ashoris mishtamshim boy. And in that merit, the Gemara says we got crowns of Nasa, one keneged Nasa, one keneged Nishma. And so now I say that from here we find out that normally you would say that the fact that we teach the ger aboli is gayer miktsas mitzvahs kalos u miktsas mitzvahs chamuros is a kula. You don't have to teach him everything. It's enough to just mention miktsas mitzvahs kalos and miktsas mitzvahs chamuros. However, based on this Gemara, you see that it's punkt faket, it's a chumrah. We don't tell you everything. You have to be ready to accept Torah in the fashion of Tumas Yeshorim Tanchem. You have to be ready to accept without knowing. Meaning, you shouldn't be a fool. You should know something. But based on the something, you should be able to make that step and accept the Torah. The Hakdama of Nasa L'Nishma is about Nasa, what we already learned in Mora, since we got a taste, miktsas mitzvahs kalos, miktsas mitzvahs chamuris, that's enough to give us the understanding that the Kabbalah of Torah is a worthwhile thing, it's a meaningful thing, and it's something that we should go forward with. You can't and you don't need to know everything. Kol HaTorah Kula. Ein ma'arichin b'davar zeh, the Rambam says. Ein ma'arichin b'davar zeh. As the pasuk says, Moshe nigash el ha'arofel asher shom ha'elokim. Moshe approached the thick cloud where Hashem is. Hashem is in a thick cloud. If you need to know it all, if you need certainty, you won't progress. You have to be willing to explore through the Arofel, So you see, the Kabbalah in the fashion of Tumas Yeshorim is not an expression of pzizus. It's not about being impetuous. It's not about the lack of Yishuv Hadas. Adarabah. It represents the full recognition of the limits of the human ability to understand, from which we know that progress is only possible when we're willing to be mevater on the full hasoga. Reishis Chochma Yiras Hashem Seichel Toiv L'chol Oiseihem, the pasuk says, and the Gemara explains in Brachas Daf Yud Zayin that the Seichel Toiv of Torah becomes understood to us through the Asiyah. You can't have it first and then do. It's through the Asiyah. Once you accept, you take upon yourself with enough probability, you might reach a higher level of conviction. But if you need to be certain before you embark on this journey, you're not going to move anywhere. Because, that's how it is, Bechlal, that without growth, you wither. And there's no growth without departing from the comfort zone of what you already know. I mean, you have to be willing to go beyond that comfort zone. So, the pasuk says, by the Chet Eitz Hadas, V'heyisem ke'elohim yoidei toiv v'ra. The serpent tells Chava that if you will eat from the Eitz Hadas, you'll be like angels, as most Rishonim say, ke'elohim. Yoidei toiv v'ra. You'll be knowers of good and evil. So the difficulty of the challenge of dealing with the lack of perfect knowledge, the difficulty of dealing with the challenge of uncertainty is what brought Adam and Chava to eat from the Eitz Hadas. They wanted to be Ke'elohim, Yoidei Toiv V'ra. I mean, because living in a world where things are uncertain is not so easy. So they wanted to escape the human condition of uncertainty. And they wanted to be Ke'elohim, Yoidei Toiv V'ra. And that's the Zuhama, Sheyorda La'olam, that's the Zuhama of having to know. I have to know. That's the Zuhama of the Eitz Hadas. And I can't deal with not knowing. And therefore, Yisrael Sha'amdu al Har Sinai. And they were willing to take upon the Torah based on probability and not certainty, based on the miktsas mitzvos kalos or miktsas mitzvos chamuros that they heard in Moro. Poskozu Amason. They got rid of that zuhamo of the Hayisem Ke'elohim, Yoidei Toivara. They were willing to move forward without certainty. And that's the Mi Gilo Lebonai Roz Zeh Shemalache Hashores Mishtamshim Boy. Malache Hashores, contrary to what you might think, but the angels really are much closer to the Tachlis Hayadiyah. And since the Tachlis Hayadiyah is Sheneida, Sheloi Neida, so Malachim are even more aware than humans are of their limited knowledge. And it's a roz. The Malachi Ashuris live in that roz. Not only does that roz, that secret, that lack of knowledge, not only that it doesn't hold them back, not only that it doesn't halt them, not only that it doesn't block them, not only that it doesn't stop them, but they're mishtamshim boy. As the pasuk says in Yechezkel, v'hachayos rotzoi v'shoiv. That's the back and forwardness of their service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the constant movement between knowledge and lack of knowledge. That's what actually inspires them, and that's what gives vitality to their avodah. That's the roz shemalache ashoris mishtamshim by. And when Yidden said Nasa v'nishma, and were willing to deal with uncertainty, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Mi gila lebonai rozeh shemalache ashoris mishtamshim by. Now, on the way to Kabbalah Satorah, it says, Vayovay Amalek, Vayilochem im Yisrael b'Refidin. Everybody knows, Svarim say Amalek has the same numerical value as Sofek. So Amalek is doubt. Now, it says, V'hoyo kashe yorim Moshe yodoi v'gova Yisrael. When Moshe lifted up his hands. Now, b'derech klal, people raise their hands. It's a sign of despair. I'm giving up. I had enough. I can't deal with it. I can't take it anymore. I'm surrendering. So, but over here you see that the raising of the hands brings about the V'gavar Yisrael over Amalek. And why is that? Because since Amalek represents Suffolk, the truth of the matter is that the way to overcome that problem is not by undoing the suffix, because the human condition doesn't allow for undoing the suffix. It's by raising your hands and acknowledging that, yes, there is doubt. But meshabdim libam la'avim shabashamayim. I recognize my limitations, and I'm willing to put myself in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And with the suffix. So the V'gavar Yisrael over Amalek is not by punching him in the face, not by undoing the suffix, but dafke by Kashe Yorim Moshe Yodoi V'gavar Yisrael. And so we actually are able to embrace the uncertainty and be soymech on the Rebbeinu Shalom kegomul alei imoy kegomul alai nafshi. That's the roz shemalache ashoras mishtamshim boy. That's the tumas yeshorim tanchem. That's the nasa v'nishma. That's the Yisrael she'amdu al har Sinai. Paskazu amosim. Now that the Zohar says that in spite of the fact that Yisrael she'amdu al har Sinai paskazu hamosim, but nevertheless, the Chet HaEgel brought back partially that Zuhama of Eitz Hadas. How's that? What's the connection? But when Boishesh Moshe Loredes Min Ahor, they couldn't deal with it. They said, Ze Moshe Lo Yotanu Ma'oyaloi. We don't know. So, you don't know. Be patient. But they couldn't deal with it not knowing. And since they couldn't deal with the uncertainty, they immediately rushed to hold on to certainty of sheker instead of waiting it out till they will get a fuller view of the truth. So the Chet HaEgel represents a chazara to the Chet Eitz Hadas, because they again couldn't deal with uncertainty. They again say lo yodanu mahoyaloi, and they make the Egel just like Aselo anu Elohim, just like the Vehiyisem ke Elohim yoidei toivara, because they couldn't deal with not knowing. Over here also, they don't know where Moshe is. They want Aselo anu Elohim. They want angelic leadership because they can't deal with doubt. So, but never, and you know, Moshe Rabbeinu, what does he do? He breaks the luchas. It says, Asher Shibarta. And the Gemara teaches, Yiyasher Koichacha Sheshibarta. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu compliments him for breaking the luchas. He says, you did a great thing. And from this we learn in the Gemara in Menachos Daf Tzadik Tes, that Pa'amim, Shebitulo Shel Torah, Zuhi...
Oh, don't go in. Stay back.
What? This is, I think, it's not for me to hear. I mean, okay. So the thing is like this. From here we learn that Pa'amim Shebitulo Shel Torah, Zuhi Yisuda, or Zuhi Kiyuma. What does that mean? Bitulo Shel Torah, Zuhi Kiyuma. Rashi says that mevatlin Talmud Torah to be mekayim a mitzvah iveres. So how in the world do we learn from Shviras Haluchas that you mevatl Talmud Torah to be mekayim a mitzvah iveres? I mean, what in the world does it have to do with Shviras Haluchas? But I think that when Moshe Rabbeinu saw that Klal Yisrael needed to hold on to him, they needed to hold on to something certain. When it was lo yodanu, they couldn't deal with it. So he feared that luchos that are etched in stone is not a good idea, because people that can't deal with uncertainty can't deal with flexibility. And so he broke the luchos. And the breaking of the luchos is really the bitulo shel Torah zui kiyuma. What qualifies the limud HaTorah is only the other possibility. Sometimes not. You know the Maisa with Rebbe Chaim Meisel, by the way, my mom was good. That Rebbe Chaim Meisel was one of the Gdolim of Lita who became a Rav in Lodz. He was the first Rav in Lodz when Lodz was created as an industrial city, and he was a Goin and Reb Chaim held that he was one of the greatest minds in the generation, and together with that, he was a tremendous Bal Chesed. And he spent most of his time. I mean, he built a hospital on the Moshe Zekanim, and he collected money for Almanis and for Yisraelim. So once there was an Asif of Rabbanim, and somebody said to Rebbe Chaim Meisel, I mean, this chesed that you're busy with, it's Bittul Torah. So Reb Chaim Brisker, who was there, Reb Chaim became red in his face, and he waited a minute, and then he said, Arov was kenish vermachen de Gemara. Arov was vermachen de Gemara to ton chesed. Arov that shuts his Gemara to do chesed is a filler when the Gemara is vermacht das offen. Even when the Gemara is closed, it's open. And a Rav that doesn't close his Gemara to do chesed, even when his Gemara is open, it's closed. So in other words, the Bitula Shel Torah qualifies it. But for that, you need to have flexibility. And if everything has to be etched in stone and you don't have the ability to deal with uncertainty, then you are you're not gonna. It's just not gonna happen, and therefore, but nevertheless, even though Chazrazu Amosim, and they said and they couldn't deal with the situation, nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was nisratze to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he gave them Luchos Shniyos. In the Luchos Shniyos was nischadish a mahalach of tikkun, a mahalach to correct this problem, and that's according to what we know from based on the Yerushalmi in Shkolim Perik Vov, that if we would have had only Luchos Rishonos, all of Torah would have been b'chsav, and in the Luchos Shniyos was nischadish that we have a Torah sheb'ksav and a Torah shebal peh. So Torah shebal peh is something that was nischadish in the Luchos Shniyos. Torah shebal peh is ta'alumois chochma, the hidden chochma. As the Medrash Tanchuma says in Parshas Noach, that Torah shebal peh is described in the pasuk Ha'om ha'hilchim b'choshech ro or god. In other words, it's in the darkness of doubt that we see the light of Torah, because Torah shebal peh is all about the lack of clarity. I mean, it's not said in a straightforward way, and sometimes you wonder. I mean, even after they wrote the Torah shebal peh, you look at Masechtas Brachos. How does it begin? I mean, that's like the most convoluted way to teach. I mean, first of all, we didn't even say that you have to learn Kriyas Shema. We start with when. Okay, but when? So say when. But they don't say. I mean, instead of saying Tzeisek Echavim, we say Mishosha Kahanim Nichnosim Lecha B'Trumasa, which happens to be Tzeisek Echavim, which we know from someplace else. But over here, it's Milsak Avurcha Kamash Malom, the Gemara says. So I mean to say, even after they wrote the Torah shebal peh, this Chasur Mechas Shevach Iktani. So it's all about not teaching in a straightforward way. It's all about getting us confused, because the darkness of confusion is where growth takes place. That's the message of Torah shebal peh, and the Mela. That's really the mahalach of tikkun for the Moshe Lo Yodanu. You know what? You live a life of Lo Yodanu and deal with it, and that's Torah shebal peh. The Ramban writes in the Hagdama to the Molchamis, Yoidea kol loy mei Talmudenu. Anybody that learns our Talmud knows she'ein b'machloikis meforshov rayos gmuros. There are no absolute rayos. V'loy beroiv kushyois chalutois. Nothing is clear and certain. Not the kasha, not the teretz. She'ein b'chochma hazois moifeis borur. This is not geometry. This is here. There's nothing. It's an inexact science, says the Ramban. The Talmud is an inexact science. Avol nosim kol ma'idenu v'dayenu mikol machloikes b'harchik achas menadeiz b'svoris machriyos v'nitzchok ala hashmois v'nosim yishroin hechshel l'baldina mikshotei ha'aloches v'hoikin hasugis im haskomas haseichel anochi. That's as far as we can go. An atiyah, probability. That's as far as we can go. And therefore, Torah shebal peh is the ongoing state of Lo Yodanu, which is the tikkun for the chait of Zeh Moshe Ish Lo Yodanu. The tzedaikim didn't believe in Torah shebal peh. Therefore, the tzedaki that sees Rava, that's Ma'ayim B'Shmaitze, he teases him. He says, "I'm a pzize. The katmisu pumaychulu naichu akati b'pachzu zaychu kamaisu." Because without the mahalach hatikun of Torah shebal peh that comes forth through the Luchos Shniyos, so that they still have the issue of not being able to deal with Lo Yodanu. Therefore, he teases us for being Magdim Nasa L'Nishma, because the Hakdama of Nasa to Nishma is accepting the limitations of our understanding. The Tzedaki doesn't accept that, because the Tzedaki is not learning Torah shebal peh. We could also be Moisif. There's a minig that Yisoidosei B'Hararei Kodesh, from the Balei Kabbalah, not to be mafsik b'dibur from Baruch Hu on the night of Shavuos, those that are in shul, until the Kedusha of Keser by Musaf. Now, what in the world is this? What's up? It's Keser in Musaf. What does that have to do with the night of Shavuos? But in the Kedusha of Keser, I think we're actually pointing to the shimush of Malachei Hashores beroz zeh. In other words, they're being able to not only not be blocked by the secret, but having the secret empower them. Because we say, Kvoidoi molei olam, Mishorsov shoyalim zeh lo zeh, ayei mekoim kvoidoi. So this is a very strange exchange, because if kvoidoi is molei olam, so why are they saying ayei mekoim kvoidoi? So mekenef shetaichen, we could maybe interpret this, that how is kvoidoi molei olam? It's through the fact that even where his kavod is not seen, there's the question of ayei mekoim kvoidoi. That's also an expression of kvod Elokim. In other words, the kavod is not only where Shechina is obvious. The kavod is also where he's not obvious, where he's not present, so to speak, and the longing and the yearning and the questioning, sometimes even angry questioning of ayei mekoim kvoidoi. It's also a form of relationship. It's also a connection. It's also an expression of kvod Elokim. And you know that Baruch kvod Hashem imkoimoi. What's Baruch kvod Hashem imkoimoi? So it's in the Nevuos Yecheskel. V'leich boy el hagoylo, el b'nei amecha. He's told to go Nahar Kvar el hagoylo. And then it says, V'tisoeini ruach, v'eshma acharai koil rash godol, Baruch kvod Hashem imkoimoi. Says the Radak, V'tisoeini ruach. B'mara hanevuah nidmeli l'leches el hagoylo. So it's like the wind carried me into Golus. V'eshma, and I heard, kishenisasani haruach, kishenisasni haruach, when the wind carried me, picked me up, lifted me up. Shomati koil acharai b'mare hanevuah shoyisi shom. V'akoil hoya oimer. I heard a voice. The voice said, Baruch kvod Hashem imkoimoi. What does that mean? Rotzo loy ma'azog dehelige radak, kishestorm imkoimoi, me'ala kaporis, mi ben shnei akruvim, Ki'ilu nitoisef kvoidoi besuroi mehem. V'loshem brocha hi toisefes toiva v'chovoi. So the Ramban says, Baruch kvod Hashem mimkoimoi. That there's a ribuy of kvod shamayim dafka when he's removed mimkoimoi. Dafka in the time of Churban. Dafka in the time of Golus. Dafka the richuk brings about an expression of kavod that doesn't exist when he's on the Shnei HaKruvim. This is really parallels what the Ibn Ezra brings in the name of Hagon in Parshas Kisisa, that the Luchas Hashneim are nichbodim min harishonim, because the Luchas Hashneim are the Luchas of suffix, the Luchas of doubt, the Luchas of uncertainty, the broken Luchas. And the broken Luchas are those Luchas that bring out the Kvod Shamayim that the ganze Luchas can't. The ganze Luchas can't. So Mamela, the guys like this. What?
Anshe Knesses HaGedoyla, the Gemara says.
Gedoyla, that's right. That they said, Adarabba, hein. Yeah, you know, Shloime is legging too. The embassy's legging too from something that he heard from me, I think, but he's legging too like this. The Anshe Knesses HaGedoyla, we say because they put back the Hakel HaGedoyla Gibev HaNoira, because the Nevi'im decided to omit those terms, because Aye I mean, where is this covered? But the Anshe Knesset Gedolah took it back. That has to do with their role. Why they put it back? Because they said Adarabah. Because Anshe Knesset Gedolah, they are the I don't know exactly how to say it, but Torah Sheba'al Peh is all about the Anshe Knesset Gedolah, and therefore they
are the bridge.
They are the ones that know how to dray with a finger. Yeah, they say you think it's down, from the down comes the up, right? So they say the Anshe Knesset Gedolah say Adarabah, hein noiroisav, hein geduloisav, and that's why the Anshe Knesset Gedolah are really the center of Torah Sheba'al Peh, because that's what Torah Sheba'al Peh is all about. The whole Torah Sheba'al Peh is about this. I mean, just like we can interpret everything, but interpretation is something that you have to be able to, as we say, depart from the comfort of the known and be willing to explore beyond what you already know. And then there's growth. And that's what Kabbalah Torah is all about.